Welcome back, boys and
What
girls.
up? We back.
That was weird.
Father their hoods.
Father their hoods. KGB is not with us today. He was unable. He's got a fatherhood day off.
Yep.
So we wish him
It
well
happens.
today. But we have a guest. And our guest is Reverend Lennox Yearwood. He is a strong advocate in both the hip hop world and the fight for a better planet. He is the head of the Hip Hop Caucus, as you can see if you're watching with the hat he's got blazing on his head. He's used music and culture to inspire young people to stand up for environmental justice and equality, things I know we hold dear here, or at least we try to.
Right. We do our
And
best.
and the good Reverend has shown how hip hop can be a powerful tool for change. And he's here to drop a few gems on how we might consider helping our kids stand up for the things they believe in. Welcome to the show.
Man, it's so good to be here, man.
Thank you for joining us, man.
Appreciate it.
So it's cool if we call you Rev,
That's the way I'm called.
That's what they call
Rev.
you.
Yeah.
like Run DMC, Rev.
Well, yeah. Well, it's a story behind that. So
Let's hear it.
Let's
Well-
do it.
Hip Hop Caucus turns 20 this year. 20 years.
Well,
So
congratulations.
yeah,
Can almost drink.
Yeah. Well,
Legally.
you could drink.
Almost.
Yeah, you 18, right? I thought it was 21. I guess
21.
Depends, I guess, the state you're in.
I guess what-
or country
Or country.
Right. But yeah, Mexico, I think, is mad young.
You can six or seven. It's-
Oh, damn.
you
And they
mad.
got hair on their chest that early? Jeez.
But the caucus turns 20 years this year, and which is amazing because as a predominantly Black, brown, indigenous young people organization, being around for 20 years is important.
Yeah.
I don't think there are many orgs that have been around in the 21st century like that, and and have grown to the size. Before that, I was obviously doing hip hop politics. I was right there at the beginning of the creation of Citizen Change, doing Vote or Die, was there with Voice Your Choice with Jay-Z, and then was working at Hip Hop Summit, Russell Simmons. So I was there, myself, Jeff Johnson, Dr. Ben Chavis. And so what happened, I was super young. And at that time, really, I'm a hardcore activist. That's what I'm here. I'm here for the liberation of my people. So, it was like, all right, we're going to get it. And so I was there. And so they had an event at the Concord Mall in North Carolina. And Reverend Run was there with his brother. People don't know, Russell. And so they were there doing, I think he had the shoes. He had the Rev Run shoes. But at that time, I didn't have much clothes. So I would wear a collar because I really couldn't keep with here you are, I'm literally working in the Fat Farm office, in New York and everything. So I'm like, listen, I can't keep up this. I got two kids. I can't keep up with the madness. I devised, I'm gonna wear my tennis shoes and my collar. So I guess Rev Run, Joseph felt that was his thing, which was cool. We ministers. So then one day we hit the Concord Mall and Dr. Ben says that Reverend Run wants me to take off my collar. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, I'm a real reverend.
Reverend Beef?
Hold up.
Reverend
I'm
Battles?
saying, you know what I mean? I'm saying, hold up. And then so I had to go outside, and he said, nah, I had to pray about it. And it was like, I felt, honestly, I'm gonna say this. I took the collar off because I felt that brother felt so uncomfortable. And it was his whole image. I'm not doing it for that. So I'm gonna do this, but I'm telling you, if me and him come, I hope we ain't gonna have two reverends out in the parking lot fight. That'd have been crazy.
That would have been nuts.
That would have been against the brand, I think.
I'd have been against the complete brand. But it shows that sometimes, I hope, we've never really spoken about that, but I hope that if he sees or hears this, that man, our goals is just to fight for people. And I believe that's what he's doing. So it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been wild. Imagine two reverends fighting over some collars.
It'd been crazy. They've been like this Reverend Run and Reverend Walk in the parking lot fighting or something.
Reverend's on World Star.
Reverend Run versus Reverend Walk.
Yo, y'all could have started a whole lane of rap battles and stuff.
And just to be clear, we're talking about the minister collar, not a collar shirt.
Yeah. That's important. People not understand.
Just in case people
they told him to take off his collar of his polo.
No. It was a mixed collar. And it was crazy. I was young, and that's one thing. I was young, and at that time, you can, because who does look up to Run DMC? You know what I'm saying? Right. I'm like, yo, this is like one of my icons. This is telling me now to take off my collar so he can feel comfortable. And it was a lot, but now 20 years in the industry, I've seen a lot, been around a lot, and now that I'm older, you realize it's a process to help everyone to grow to where they need to be.
You mentioned you have 2 kids.
I do.
So how old are your children?
One is 22 and one is 24. River and King.
River and King. Those are dope names.
King was born right around Dr. King's birthday. So it's a shout out to Dr. King. I actually told Bernice King that not too long ago. But he's named after Dr. King. So his name is King.
That's dope.
And then River, just cool name. River Yearwood. Can't get no better than that.
That's a dope name.
What's his name? River, you said?
River.
Yeah, River.
My son's middle name is River.
Oh, that's what's up.
Because my wife is Native American, so both my kids have a water middle name, Rain and
River. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's ill.
How old are you? Because to have adult kids, like, you look young as hell.
I appreciate you.
Hold on, can I guess? Wait, first of all, are you comfortable sharing your age before we even start?
No, I'm comfortable. I actually appreciate the fact that I already said that was 20 years ago. I was getting ready, be in the parking lot, scrapping Reverend Run. So that was
fact.
That's
you
a while
say
ago.
you were young though, so you could have been hella young. We don't know how young. But you were a reverend already, so I don't know.
No, I was already a reverend, and I was actually leaving being a chaplain in the Air Force. I was a chaplain in the U.S. Air Force.
Wow.
So that even gives you more age on top of that.
Oh, so you 46.
That's a good guess. No, I'm in my 50s. Good for
Man.
Yeah, facts.
You look young as hell, bro. I'm 48 and you look like you 45 at the most.
I appreciate y'all.
Well, keep it a buck, Rev. Are we dyeing the beard or is that just natural?
No,
you rewinded? You Fat Joe rewinded?
You rewinded?
No, not at all. So this part of fatherhood piece. So for me, when I was doing the Hip Hop Caucus 20 years ago, right? I had a situation, men would go through it with their wives or their partner. And at that time, when I was going through the activists, my wife at the time didn't choose the activist role. She was like, nah, right. I'm not with that. I'm not with the poverty piece. I ain't with we just out here hold your fist up piece. I'm not with you getting arrested piece. And so I was like, well, okay, fine. I totally understood that. What I didn't know at the time, she's like, well, in that case, you're going to have to raise these kids. You know what I mean? Because I'm just not with it. And that was an amazing, just like God moment. I was like, wow, it's going to be just me and these boys. I literally took them to, I think it was Wendy's. Mm-hmm. And I went to Wendy's. It was like 3 and 5 at the time. And I was like, yo, I told Reverend King, I said, listen, you better get used to eating this because I don't really cook that well. So this may be what you're doing. I said, you may have to get used to the extra, the supersized part of this process. You may, we'll get health insurance, but this may be it. And they didn't know what was going on. But that also kept me, I'm going to tell you, doing hip hop, being around things, having those 2 boys in my life, I'm telling you, it kept me out of a lot of things, kept me from drinking, smoking like that, kept me from just doing a lot of stuff that I think that keeps me preserved a little bit.
So but let's clarify this. So were you guys married at the time?
I was. Yeah.
So she just left the picture completely?
Yeah, no, she left the picture like gradually completely, but she wasn't with the lifestyle. She was hoping, I think, now looking back at it, we've talked about it. Mm-hmm. She was hoping that would jolt me out of not being an activist. Right. I would go back, because understand, I was a Black U.S. Air Force officer. I was getting I was actually in my master's to get my PhD program. So that was all the bougie things you would hope that would set you on that nice trend. But my love for what I was doing for fighting for my people was just there. Right. I just couldn't. I felt that calling almost, and it wasn't
that drive.
Yeah, and it was and I knew that was going to be well, we may not be in the 5-bedroom house. That may not. I really want to see my people free. I that was just that. And I actually understood her perspective. People said, "Yo, you should be mad at her." No, most women don't do that. And I'm like, nah, I actually understand not wanting to be poor. Like, it's like being an activist ain't always cool. You know what I mean? That's not it. So,
but sorry to cut you, but
no,
but at least did you co-parent?
nah. I mean, I had
Because
my
you're
mother.
way too nice on this to say you understand. Because I don't understand how she could leave her kids. Maybe you, but not your kids.
But now I understand from the other side though, because a lot of women go through this on the flip side.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so it's just, and so for me, I totally understand. I mean, I had a support system. My mom, my aunts. So I had a support system. My co-workers at Hip Hop Caucus, like literally, like it was crazy. I had to go somewhere. They make sure I was back in time to go to school. So I had a mad community to help. Was I angry? I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, there are times today when I feel like as though I may have missed out on something. You know what I mean? But I'm telling you, it shaped me. It shaped me to literally who I am. River and King are amazing. River actually played ice hockey, so it was a whole thing with him. He actually is graduating from his college.
Congratulations.
He played college ice hockey. The college wants me to do the commencement address.
Wow.
So I mean, that's like full circle. I mean, so and then the youngest one. I mean, it's so many good things.
No, you stepped up, is what you did.
Yeah, you had no choice.
Right.
Now it wasn't easy. Let me be very, very clear. I totally understand because it was caused for being lonely. It caused you to have to be really focused. It caused you to have to really lock into the future. Like you couldn't be really, okay, because don't forget, now that I'm in my 50s, that's my 30s. So I'm thinking, dang, this is when you really supposed to be. And I'm around the industry. I mean, I'm around like all the good stuff. Like I'm not around, I'm not just some guy in some cul-de-sac. Like I'm around Jay-Z. I'm around, I mean, it keeps going. Like I'm around Tip when we did, I mean, I'm around everyone in the industry for the next 20 years, but it keeps me grounded. That my faith it kept me grounded.
It sounds to me kind of like this is the similar theme EFM brings up all the time, right? Like being in the Drink Champs world, there's a lot of things that are constantly happening, right? And you can't be a part of everything, because you have your paternal responsibility.
Yeah,
but
I choose not to be a part of things.
It's a choice
because my priority are my children and my family.
And to the casual listener, person that may not be involved in hip hop the way you two are, it might sound ludicrous. Like they might be like, "Yo, well, y'all wilding out. Why?" If, as an example, "Oh, yo, you got an opportunity to go hang out with Jay. Why you gonna say no? Because you got to go handle something with your kids." A lot of people might be like, "Nah, I'm going to that. My kid's gonna have to figure it out." Which is wild, but I mean, those are the choices, right? You get into this.
It depends, though. You weigh certain.
I'm just saying,
like, yeah. I guess
there might be opportunities that benefit the kids later if you have certain meetings and stuff. But for the most part, just partaking in just everything and just certain things, you're just like it's not that serious. What's serious is being present at home. At least for me,
Yeah, no, and I think you're still in your grind. I don't think your grind changes. I think you're still doing your business, right? You still got to be what you have to do in the industry. So you still got to be present. You still got to be, out front. I mean, so I think that's important. I think you just learn how to have balance. I think you just learn to have really enjoy the times with your kids differently.
And be strategic about those opportunities you decide to be out front.
Most definitely.
For.
Yeah.
Right. And balance is actually, I think balance to me is the word for hip hop. Like that to me,
yes.
Not to kind of segue away from things, but it triggered me because I always say that that's what's missing. When someone says what's wrong with hip hop is that when we don't have balance in hip hop, then that's what's wrong with hip hop. Because it's at its best when there's balance. And that goes for the music, for the culture, for individuals in their lives.
So and for folks in front of the camera and behind the camera, because people think it's just those people don't have balance, not just those who you see out front on stage, but from those who are, in the management or at the venues, wherever if they don't have balance too. Because a lot of times people just you know, they self-medicate their balance, and that's not
Right.
good.
Absolutely.
So Reverend, you mentioned, well, off camera, you mentioned kind of where your origins stem from, right? You mentioned you're
Yeah.
from Louisiana originally, and now
I'm from Louisiana.
So explain, like, that's an interesting journey. I mean, you're not Lil Wayne. Most people will say
No.
or Cash Money, or some of the notable folks, but it's a difficult, I would imagine. I would love to hear your take on it, but it's an interesting journey. Can you take us through like how you go from the boot to present day?
Yeah, first we keep that shout out going. Shout out to Big Frida, Don Richard, D1, Juvenile. Make sure all my New Orleans folks get the
Juvie,
shout
man.
out. You know what I'm
And
saying? I want to keep going. I
fresh.
want to make sure. Yeah.
Shout out Master P and them.
Yeah, I'm gonna say we got the greatest hip hop, greatest stuff in the world down in Louisiana.
Yeah.
But I would say for me, so my dad was actually in the Olympics. He was in the '68 Olympics. He was there, and he ran for a country, Trinidad and Tobago. That's it. He was there for the moment when he saw Tommy Smith and John Carlos put the fist up.
Put the fist up.
And he was like, yeah. And then in the tunnel, when he saw that, he had two reactions. He's like, wow, them Americans is crazy. And two, I want to go to America. So then Grambling State University was not Grambling. Yeah. It gave my dad a scholarship to come run track. And so my mom came over, and she also was from Trinidad, and they just made it happen in Louisiana. So that was how I got here. Then I was born on campus, and then it was a great situation. I was like a campus baby. I was told, I was like just being passed around. Well, today I don't know if you can do that no more, but they would just like pass me around. I'm going to class, take care of this kid, and whatever. And so that was there. And then they stayed there. Obviously, they loved it. They stayed there. And then eventually my peoples would move to Washington, D.C. My dad would teach at Howard. Shout out to Howard University.
Yeah.
I would go to Howard at some point, so that's kind of cool. But I mean, that's the roots. And then I think I would always have friends and families. My godfather, close friends were in Louisiana from Shreveport, where I was born, to Monroe, Ruston, throughout Cancer Alley, which is between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, and then in New Orleans.
They call it Cancer Alley?
Yeah, no, you don't know that?
Nah.
Oh, that's critical.
Put us on.
No. So this is if there's no other reason for me to be on this show, it's that. So there's a spot in between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, about 85 miles long, in which industry literally puts petrochemical facilities and other chemical facilities, particularly in Black and brown communities, and it's so bad that it has the highest levels of cancer in the country.
Carcinogens.
And it's literally nicknamed Cancer Alley.
And I've heard of something similar in like the hoods of St. Louis.
Well, there's cancer clusters. Yeah. No, there's also like in Wilmington, Delaware. There's like in like Detroit around the Marathon Refinery. I mean, there's spots around in Newark. And actually, I mean, what's crazy about it? This is a fun but crazy fact. Hip hop is literally created from its beginnings because of the Bronx Causeway. Literally because of them putting a highway through a community, causing redlining, causing pollution and poverty. Is literally how the culture that we live off now was created.
You just blew my freaking mind right now, because I mean, I'm from the Bronx, and I remember. I mean, I wasn't around when that happened, but I know the friction that whole event caused, and how you just framed it, like the division of the Bronx and all the different effects of that construction plays a huge role. I didn't look at it that way.
It's the DNA. It's actually the reason why the further we get away from using our cultural expression to shape our political experience in the culture in hip hop, it's the reason why we do feel that unbalance. It's the reason why, and when we connect, that is, listen, we all grown folks. We need grown folk music. I mean, nothing wrong with that. Right. But the reality though is that we also need some of that balance. That lets us remind us that we fighting for something bigger than ourselves. We fighting for our kids, for our kids' kids. And so that's that. So in Louisiana, it's a spot called Cancer Alley. And that for me drives me, because that not only has an impact on them in Louisiana, but because of the pollution, because of the carbon that's put into the atmosphere, that then creates the climate crisis we have too as well. So that also is an impact. So that if we can stop that in Louisiana or Texas or other places, then we can also ensure that we got clean air and clean water for our kids. So yeah, no, all that's there. So that's part of the Louisiana piece. And so for me, when Hurricane Katrina hit, you know, that's literally that'll be 20 years next year. That's crazy. So when Hurricane Katrina hit, and then for many of us to be at home watching TV and seeing particularly poor people, poor white people, poor black people left behind in the richest country in the world, that put us on a different kind of path. And that again is, I think that we saw that. It's unfortunate that we didn't connect the dots between racial justice and climate justice in that aspect. But I think that as time is going on, we now are connecting the dots. Unfortunately, because we now have gone from just fighting for equality, we now fighting for existence. And that's critical because we're fighting for our children's livelihoods for years to come.
Wow. Yo, I don't know if we're going to have to, we only have a few mics, so you can't be dropping the mic too many times because then we can't have a podcast. The connections that you just outlined are, this is the first time I've actually heard it succinctly like that. And it's wild to think about all those things interrelated. Because as I was preparing for this conversation with you, I'm thinking about just like kind of doing a self-assessment. And I'm like, all right, on the environmental tip, I'm not consciously or proactively doing things to benefit the environment. Not on a consistent basis. Sure, we try to keep the lights off or on only when we need them. We do composting every so often. Like, we're doing little things, but I'm sure that there's a ton more I could be doing. So my awareness isn't quite there. So that's kind of what I was preparing for. But
and that's intentional. I mean, if you drive down the New Jersey Turnpike for years, they would tell you that smell you smell is the smell of money. Right, that's a smell of money. You know, I mean, that's what they would say. Right, really, it's a smell of cancer. It's a smell of asthma. It's a smell of pollution. So, what we didn't know then is that 68% of Black and Brown people live within 30 miles of a coal-fired power plant. And so, what we didn't know, and what we now know. See, the problem is this is where it gets deep. A lot of environmentalists don't come from our communities, so they don't connect the dots. But for us, what we now know is that these folks' business plan means a death sentence for our community, so that our livelihoods are shortened. And that's one of the craziest things. So it's not just been about environmentalist recycling. And I mean, that's all good and well, or reusing, recycling. That's great. But we now know, and this is why it's so important for us to get into this, is that people target us. Like, they literally get in these boardrooms and look at us, and they target us and be like, yo, I'm going to put this in their communities, literally creating sacrifice zones so that their kids and their kids and their kids' kids have asthma and are dying. Like, they literally that sinister with it. I mean, in my home there in Louisiana, they so crazy with it. They are literally putting plants for the petrochemicals. They are finding former plantation sites where our people were killed and putting plants on plantations. That's how whack and crazy they are. And that's why, you know, and again, the nice environmentalist, the tree hugger, they just not going to feel what y'all just felt, because we going to feel it and instantly understand that's madness.
Yeah. Right. And then it feeds the other cycle, which is the broken healthcare and insurance agenda.
Exactly. And then we get thrown into this cycle, and then we stuck, because now we missing work to now the other part of fatherhood. We missing the work to take care of our kids who's sick, or we sick, or we dying too soon. Shout out to all those who dying too soon. You know, even in our culture or in our space.
Rest in peace, Mr. C, who just passed away.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Or my man, you know, Biz Marquis, you know what I'm saying? You know, man, that's my man. So it's like, we dying too, so we not even making 60. We getting to 50, and we dying at that. Like, we like, damn, you 60. So and if we do get 60, we broken down. So and we don't understand it's the chemicals in our community. And even that so we gotta and all we asking for, honestly, just clean air and clean water. That's all we fight. That's all we want. And so that's what the Hip Hop Caucus is working on right now, to ensure that we can have that for our people.
And what are the key initiatives or the big initiatives we should all be kind of aware of and supportive of that will ultimately get us this? Because I mean, it's impacting us, it sounds like, proportionally more than non people of color, right? It's a global issue. It's a every person issue.
Most definitely.
Right. So everybody lives on the earth.
Right. So like how do we what kind of, because again, ignorance, right? Like I'm very ignorant about a lot of this stuff. And how do I get more educated around this stuff, and what things should I be looking out for so I can be more knowledgeable, but I can also introduce it to my children?
Yeah. Well, I think we gotta shape policy, right? That's the first step. And the way to do policy is we gotta be making sure that it seems corny to people, but I've been doing my vote and vote or die for years. But democracy is very important. You know what I mean? Elections do have consequences. And so we do need to make sure and have the folks who we can talk to about this, who when we go to, they're not going to be on the side of the polluters, but the people. That's important. And so we do have to have that. Step one is the low level is democracy, getting out to vote and making sure your voice is being heard, just so you're voting for people who care about your community. I think the second thing is that we need to change how we are actually seeing environmentalism. I think that that's an important piece. I think that we need to, as a community, just have these conversations, which you're doing right now, and which we not talking about the trees and the whales. And I mean, I had nothing against sea turtles or polar bears. I mean, I got nothing against a polar bear, but I'm just more concerned about y'all's kids and my kids more than the polar bear right now. And I just want to make sure that we are okay with that. So I think that's the second step, is ensure that our communities have the clean air and the clean water. I think the third thing that's important is that, how do we, this is why I would push for artists, because this is my world. How do we use our storytelling ability to help make this? Because honestly, talking about even how we're talking about now, people may turn off, but if it's in the lyrics, if it's in, if it's in our culture, if it's in the graffiti, if it's in our movies, our plays, it makes it much easier to digest. So, I mean, I'm not saying you can't talk about whatever you're going to talk about, what you're going to talk about, but let's talk about something real too. Let's add that to the script. So I'm hopeful. And I think I've done it with voting, obviously. I mean, from voting standpoint, obviously, working with folks from Jay to Tip, 2 Chainz, Amber Rose, you name it. There's all across. I don't care. I work with you if you want to get it done. But the thing here in regards to this and economic justice, and civil human rights, we got to be involved. We got to create. I'll say this. So when Sean Bell was killed, I was asked to speak there a few years after that. People don't know Sean Bell was shot, I think 46 times by the NYPD.
Yeah, in Queens, I believe it was.
Yeah, it was like 2000.
Oh, he's from Queens. I can't remember.
Yeah, no, it was Queens. I think it was Queens. But so I was asked to come there and speak maybe about 5 years later, and I was speaking on this. This was like post Katrina, right? So that was my main thing about what we got to do so we don't have that again. People just left behind. And I was there, and a little kid, never forget it, might have been 11 or 12, came up to me, like, Rev, love what you said, man, about the environment. We gotta do that. That's great. And I was like, thanks, that's cool. And then he asked me this. He said, but Rev, he said, but why do you want to save hell so bad? And I was like, save hell so bad. He said, yeah, because you're like, if they killing us, we ain't got no food, we ain't got no good. Our schools messed up. Even if you do that thing with the sea level rise and you change the atmosphere, we still dying. And so that hit me. So we do got to be intersectional environmentalists. We got to make sure to connect the dots so that we connect the dots between, our food, our food deserts in our community, to economic justice, to police brutality. All that's got to be connected so that when we come clean, because we ain't trying to save hell, we're trying to save hope. And that's real. And that's what we want for our kids. And so when we ain't here no more, when they find this video, 100 years from now and say, man, they was all wearing black. What was going on back then? Why were they all wearing black back in 2024? Where they find the video, they could be like, but they was talking about saving our lives. Thank you. They're gonna be like, thank you. We want to be around. They're gonna be like, thank you for even having the conversation.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, people are disillusioned with politics. They don't feel that anything is moving the needle. I mean, look, all of us are close in age enough to know that we come from a generation that was optimistic, and the music was prolific and revolutionary and trying to move the needle, and we thought it was going to go in, and I haven't seen it move much, to be honest with you, politically.
Hmm.
What I've come to understand and start to believe is the top isn't doing anything in terms of politics. They're just changing the guard and telling us, vote this way or vote that way, and voting with emotion, but they're not really affecting policies that affect you at home. And I've started in recent years meeting local commissioners and senators and mayors, and realizing doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum they're on, they really have to answer to the people locally, and they actually work more across the aisle than the higher ups do, because they have to, because of proximity. So I would say people should invest in their local politics more. And then the flip side, that or something that I would ask you to like maybe push it at some point or think about it, is that local politics aren't as popular. They're just not as popular. People aren't galvanized to go out there. They don't know the local politicians. They don't even really know what these, like, I had a commissioner kind of basically running down what they do. And I was like, wow, you deal with all this. This is what you take care of. And now there's commissioners, young commissioners, using social media and showing you in real time what they're doing as they're doing it. So I would say is what we need is probably to change the voting system, at least on the local level, that makes it easier for people to vote and kind of know when, because it's like you don't even like, it'll be like the voting just happened locally, and I'm like, it happened yesterday. What are you talking about? I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, it was like you would get ready to vote. You voting when it happened. You'd be like, that's crazy.
It's wild. So I mean, I'm sorry for going off on a tangent, but I just feel like the local politics to me is what's really moving the needles, because we all invest so much. Like right now, Biden and Trump. But I mean, I'm not happy with any of that. You know what I'm saying? Neither of them work for me, because I don't feel all they're doing is geopolitics. That seems that that's going to take us nowhere fast. That's a whole other issue, man, that we got to deal with, because the world could end with these, people. But yeah, that's just something to think about.
No. I mean, I think first of all, I 100% agree with you on the local. All politics is local, and I think you got to dig into that. So, right. But let me just add a caveat to it. I think it's real important. The frustration is real. I think that, and it's been real for a long time, because when we see people who are obviously not doing for those who are most vulnerable, we can see that. Like, it's like, yo, you can't build homes. Why you gonna keep building bombs? So you keep, these schools don't have no books. So we can see that these folks, and we have to understand that politicians are gonna be just that, politicians. I think that the power is in the people. That's why I've always been. So I want to shape it differently for you. I think that for us, we have to be in a position where our voice is heard. That's the first thing, that we can't check out, because that's actually what they want. They want us not to be present. They want us not to be informed. They want us not to be discussing this. So that's the first thing, on all sides. I think the second thing, though, is that it really the details are in those policies. That's where millions of dollars. So let me give an example around the climate stuff. We talk about that. So a bill was recently passed called the Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. 2 bills passed. In those 2 bills, over $400 billion are going to be distributed. As a matter of fact, $20 billion must go to Black, Brown, Indigenous, and poor communities. $20 billion. Nobody's talking about that. That's like literally a game changer. So no matter who or what put that in place, that's the law of the land. Like that $20 billion for that has to go to our communities, or that 400 billion that would go into doing roads and doing other things. That is going to happen. The thing that we miss though, we ain't a part of those conversations. We're not a part of that. So that we are part of a conversation thinking that politics ain't doing nothing. In the meantime, they're kicking out $400 billion. So for me, it's like, well, how do we get a seat at the table? Not just on the who's running for office, but on the when the money is being kicked out. And what we find out now, when we're trying to get people to the table, they will say, well, you're not prepared for it. You know, you haven't done the right things to get ready for it. You know, you need to have this kind of so nobody's teaching us. So that's where we need to be. The politics is just one aspect. I agree with you. But once the money is being distributed, who is in line to benefit from those policies? And we need to have that conversation. The trick is just to be like, oh, so it's voting. Just y'all go vote and that's it. Nah, okay, we're gonna vote. Great, we voted, but now we want to figure out who's gonna build the school. Yeah, we want to figure out who's gonna put solar panels, who's gonna build those new EV charging stations. Yes, who is actually gonna be the ones to deal with mental health in our communities? There's billions of dollars, and we ain't the ones. And other people from other communities come into our communities, grab that money, do those things while we're still broke and busted and not benefiting.
So and then you got to worry about the corruption that revolves around that money coming into the community.
Well,
because
that's
where the local politics.
No, and I agree, and that's what I'm saying. We need to, and that's what we need to have our eyes right on it. I'm with you. I mean, that's the thing and that's why politics get involved, because what they really know when the cameras are off, they are having those conversations with people that then the money is then going to those entities. That's not us. I just want to make sure that we're in the room. And for me, Hip Hop Caucus, we've done that. We've tried to make sure that we're in the room. I mean, I will tell you, it's been so many times when we come, I mean, now we get all the respect, you know, Hip Hop Caucus is like, oh man, and I appreciate that. But for years, you know, people was telling me to change the name. I can tell you people, I can tell you, listen.
I believe it.
People in hip hop, I can tell you big people in hip hop was telling me, you can't come hip hop. Big people who have made their living off of hip hop have told me you should change your name to something else. And I was like, nah, we're not going to do that, because it's important not only for us to be in excellence, but for our community to feel comfortable, to know that this is somebody or something on the inside that is fighting for their fight.
What was it? Were they encouraging you to change the name because they were skeptical that you having the name was going to benefit the caucus, or because they were like, yo, don't rep hip hop, like keep this separate?
They just got old. They just got old, and I'll say it, and I actually understand it. I get it. In some cases, I mean, I get it. I'm not saying it's chess, not checkers. So I understand that. So we're not going to not say that it's not that, but it is a situation here that ultimately our people need to feel that they can be connected. Yeah. And that's a real thing. And I think that there's a lot of people who we know don't like hip hop because they think it means something else, and they just hate it. And I think that and this allows them to see another side. I love it now. I mean, now at the stage, I love it. I mean, I've gotten old with it, but it's like, I love the fact now that this is now, Hip Hop Caucus is a part of the United Nations. Like, we are literally an official member of the UN. We are a part of, I mean, so many conversations happening, and that's going to change people even see the culture. It just took 20 years to get here, but we're here.
Well, and the UN thing, sorry, man, but I want to mention one thing, as it should be, because what I was going to say is that, you know, Hip Hop 50, the celebration has helped in terms of a lot of people outside of the culture respecting it. Yes. But I started this documentary series in 2012 where I travel to different countries, and I go through the country through like their hip hop scene. Basically, they're my tour guides. The hip hop community in any country I've gone. I've gone to 6 countries so far: Cuba, Haiti, Peru, Vietnam, South Africa, and Colombia. And one of the things that I've gotten out of doing that series is I've realized how important hip hop is around the world and what a
Yes.
huge cultural export, if not probably the biggest cultural export this country is exporting to the world. And we could get into things that I'm learning how we're losing our our effect on the world, you know, and our influence through,
Yep.
you know, our
Through
hip
hip-hop.
hop influence around the world. But that's another conversation. But in terms of what you're doing, I feel like now with Hip Hop 50, the government is kind of starting to realize that. Is that something that you can leverage? And you mentioned the UN, which I think is amazing, to leverage that this is actually a commodity, an export, a thing that we're exporting. Just like in the 80s during the Cold War, we were exporting Hollywood to against communism. You know, is that something that you've thought of and explore to
No,
leverage?
it definitely is. I mean, there's no doubt that hip hop 50, the 50th anniversary of hip hop was critical to, I think, a watershed moment to people seeing hip hop differently. And I think it's going to keep happening. This year we 50 plus one, we 51 pretty
Mhm.
soon. But I think that for Hip Hop Caucus, because Hip Hop Caucus now turns 20, so it's literally now that all these things are now kind of coming together. It definitely puts it that it has continuity. So it's been around. I think that's just, that like, people look at it differently. I think that people now are older themselves. So they're in their 30s, they're in their 40s, they're in their 50s, in their 60s. They now are seeing it differently. They understand that that was just some fun stuff when we were younger, but now that's like it's a real thing. And I think
Yeah.
what you said there, man, is so important because I think the export of hip hop, it is something that then allows for me when I'm either in if I'm in Dubai or I'm in so Africa or if I'm in the Caribbean or I'm in Mexico, wherever I'm at, it's a natural connection. It allows for that me just being from an American, which is fantastic. I'm glad I'm from America, but it
Right.
also allows me then to be in other countries and other cultures and see them in me. And then to also because now because really we are, to your point, we it is politics are all local, but we're also all global citizens.
Mhm.
And
All
so
right.
we have to actually understand what's going on around the globe because we now realize that we're much closer together. So I think that the culture allows us to connect. And so I think that I actually think about a lot about because the Hip Hop Caucus now being on the world stage, it really, I think about the impact of what that means for shaping world discussions. And we are. And so it's an amazing thing. And it also allows for young people to be a part of the conversation.
Absolutely.
So before we head out of here, I got two questions for you.
Yeah.
Might take us on a tangent. I hope not, but whatever. I think people might appreciate it. But how does a casual listener get involved with the Hip Hop Caucus or has an opportunity to contribute to the causes that we just talked about?
Yeah. I mean, the easiest way is to just go to their website and to be engaged, wherever they are. Hip Hop Caucus is national. This is for those who are in America who are listening here on Turtle Island to know that it is, you can get engaged and use the tools. It has a lot of toolkits at the website for you in your area. If you want to deal with the environment issue, it has some toolkits there. We'll deal with economic justice, toolkits there that you can use if you want to deal with, civil human rights. There's a lot of toolkits that are there, voting, democracy, particularly when it means to disenfranchised communities. It's there. I think the most important thing, though, that I think we need to do, though, we need to have political education. I think that we're missing that, and so I'm hopeful that we from the culture side, we actually have many artists now working within the caucus, which is new. Like Dawn Richard actually works as an artist relations person at the caucus. Obviously, a lot of artists now we're working with to help them figure out how to use their platforms. So I would just say this, though, to really get involved. We're creating content now. So we obviously have a documentary called Underwater Projects that we did with Wanda Sykes around the flooding in
Cool.
Norfolk. We're bigging up the work that Beyonce is doing around climate change, and her new album, and just the references for climate in Texas Hold'em. So we're hoping that the more and more that can happen, that we can just support artists across the thing. I also think that what artists need now, and I think that I'd love to hear y'all side on this, but I think that our artists only get called for audience building, to be used to be like, we want you to help bring people into the seats.
Yeah.
But I think artists want to kind of go back to where we were with like Harry Belafonte, rest in peace, Eartha Kitt, Dick Gregory, Nina Simone. I think they want to go back to where we want to be part of the solution too. Like we got family, we got kids, we got problems, so we got situations. So we want to be in the room, like, to talk about it. And I think a lot of times we only let the activists do it and then keep the artists out. But I think what we need now is more artivists. That combination of an activist and an artist coming together, being like, what y'all are doing, right? What you're saying, like, listen, I am an artist, but I want to be more as an activist, but I'm really an artivist. I want to use who I am. And I think I want the Hip Hop Caucus to create more of that. And so I hope that we just create spaces when we're together, like when we're at, if we're at BET in LA, or if we're at, South by South, where we are when we get together at, if we're at Rocky City. I just want us to use those opportunities, not to just do one thing, but let's pull into some rooms. Let's really because one thing I will say is this real, our people are hurting. That's real. And I don't give a damn about no politician in this regard. Our people are dying. And one thing I've seen too much of is those little, as a father, I've seen too many little of those children-sized caskets. And I've seen too many fathers and mothers screaming and crying because their baby ain't here. And for me as a father, I can't imagine.
No, that's terrible.
Ever seeing my child in a casket. So I think as somebody, for us as a culture, it's our job. It's our job to ensure that we can make sure our people just do better, live better, have more laughter and have more fun. And no matter what we got, white supremacy, we got bad politicians. Yeah, we're going to have that. But we got to make sure as a culture that we left this place better. That's what's going to matter. We left this place better.
We got to stop right there. If we say anything else, we're going to mess this up. Rev, this is super profound. I'm grateful.
No, man, I love y'all. Thank you for having me. I'm just so glad.
And just do it again as well.
No, we got to. We got to. You know what I'm saying? And I got to figure. I mean, I don't drink, so I got to figure out to bring me a drink surrogate. I got.
That's right.
So for the audience, hiphopcaucus.org is the site.
Yeah, hiphopcaucus.org. You get everything there, including my information. Hiphopcaucus.org.
Perfect. Man, keep fighting a good fight, man. And
I'm going to do that.
I agree with what you were saying about like finding those spaces and having these artivists like participate. And you probably have already explored this, but just something I'm observing as I see and kind of somewhat deal with some of these folks, it's having something that is relatively easy for them to start or do is always going to be the fastest route. And I think there's a place for that, because more micro activations that, all that mounts and creates bigger impacts, right? So if there are opportunities for that, like I'm sure those will help to move things forward. Big impactful change, like singing "We Are the World" back in the day, like those are like moments in time that could also be beneficial, but they got to be properly, situated. I know you're working on that, but it takes more than just what you and your team are doing.
Yeah, we need a new self-destruction record.
Yeah, no,
and there could be one revolving around the environment. That would be
no. And I would say that the good thing about Hip Hop Caucus for us is that I know a lot of times in our community, everybody is starting something, right? Everything is just, they starting it. And so it's brand new and they hustling to start it. Caucus now 20 years in. We're not we established, and we're not worried about resources like that. It's really about let's do this for our people. Like I'm honest. We owe it. I'm trying to tell you. Am I listening? If I don't say nothing that you haven't heard, please understand this. 100 years from now, 21, 24, nobody on this podcast talking right now is going to be in the form they're in right now, unless we get drugs. But if we don't do that, nobody's going to be here. But what will be here, the only thing that's going to matter, what we leave for our children, we leave for our community. And I'm telling you, it's nothing more special than seeing your community do better. As a culture, let's get it.
That's a real legacy.
That's our real legacy.
For real. All right, folks. We'll catch y'all next week. Audience, please check out hiphopcaucus.org. Reverend Yearwood, I'm sure is all over social media. So definitely, if you got some questions, reach out. Yeah, man, let's do this for these kids, man.
Let's do this again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Reverend. Thank you, man.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.